Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and what a roller coaster of emotions. You know, just a couple days ago, we were at around what, like $2.50. Then we just dropped down within the last 24 hours down to about $2.06, and now we're hanging out around $2.19. Do you know why this is? It's because we're, drum roll please, within a range. We're within a range. Welcome to the range. Did you know we're in a range? It's a range. And this is the crap that just scares the hell out of people. I mean, the fact that you could go, look, if you're talking about traditional finance, I get it. That's a big percentage change, up and down and up and down. Which is why I said, what a roller coaster of emotions. But, as it turns out in crypto, this is pretty damn normal and not something to be fearful of. So I'm going to share with you some of the latest perspectives from a handful of XRP chart analysts, including one who says, look, even if you're just talking about the bear case, that's still safely, the bear case, not his bull case. So for worst case scenario, and he's one of the guys that did accurately predict XRP would break out. He's saying, even with his bear case, it would effectively still put XRP over $8. Well, if that's the worst case scenario, I mean, I'm just saying, that doesn't sound too terrible to me. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby, and just for fun. Damn it. And if you don't like it, you know what you can do? You can just get out. As I record this video, this latest Moon Lambo hot jam, it is... Oh, it's early in the morning, too early. 4:35 a.m. Central Time, which is my time zone here in the good old Midwest of the United States. It is now Sunday, March 30th, 2025. We've almost finished 1/4 of this damn year. I have a suspicion that Q2 probably going to be better than Q1. And Q1, what a great quarter for XRP holders. If you've been around for more than 5 seconds, my God, finally hitting a new all-time high for XRP after over 7 years. Yeah, kind of a big deal. I have a suspicion, though, Q2 is going to be better. We'll find out together. But the last piece of the puzzle, for me anyway, on a personal level, is price discovery for this market cycle. That's the last piece I'm looking for. I still think it's coming. I want to highlight this very briefly. I actually covered this information about 24 hours ago, and I'm very happy to see, and it's not because of me, but I am happy to see that the Daily Hodl picked it up after this. More people should be aware of this. The reason for the ups and downs, it's directly correlated to global liquidity. The reason for 4-year Bitcoin cycles, it's not the halving. It simply isn't. That doesn't make logical sense. There's so little new Bitcoin, if you want to call it that, getting produced there's no way. There's almost all of it's been mined, bitch. Like almost all of it. Okay, it's not the amount of new mining because of a halving getting produced. No, or the new Bitcoin because of a halving getting produced. It's not that. It's global liquidity, folks. Now, Raoul Pal knows that. He's a former Goldman Sachs executive. He's an XRP holder. 1.1 million followers on X for good reason. Founder of Real Vision and GMI, Global Macro. How do I forget that right now? Global Macro Investors. I think that's right Anyway, so I highlighted this literally yesterday morning, and I was very happy to see. So I'll just be brief with this. I don't want to club you over the head too much with this, but this is it. Like, this is the thing, and this is why you should be very optimistic that the next thing is number go up. It's not a guaranteed thing. It's about probability of outcome. I find this heavily persuasive. You guys tell me what you think. Check this out. Former Goldman Sachs executive Raoul Pal believes that it's almost time for Bitcoin to ignite the next phase of its uptrend. Paul tells his 1.1 million followers on the social media platform X that Bitcoin tends to follow the global liquidity cycle, but with a 10-week lag. And folks, I'll just pause to note the reason for the 10-week lag is that, okay, so liquidity increases, more people and businesses have disposable income, let's say, whatever it is. We're categorizing here specifically as liquidity, and so he's citing the global M2, which is some of the most liquid money on the planet, effectively. And so what happens is that increase, it becomes available. It is then dispersed. So it makes sense that you would have it and then you'd disperse it. How do you disperse it? Well, a lot of it goes into risk on assets, as it turns out, including the stock market and the crypto asset class. Anyway, piece continues. The macro guru shares a chart suggesting that global M2, or the total money supply across the world, has sharply risen after carving a bottom in late 2024. Based on the data, Paul predicts that Bitcoin will soon end its correction and begin sparking fresh rallies. And the quote is from Rob Paul: "The waiting game is almost over. The 10-week lead is my preferred," end quote. Now, if you're like me, maybe you care way more about your altcoins. Maybe you're really like me and you care the most about XRP because I'm biased. That's my largest individual holding. That's what I care most about. Well, historically, Bitcoin leads the way. I do not believe that we are going to see XRP blaze into face-melting price discovery unless you see the whole asset class go together. And historically, Bitcoin leads the way on that. So I want to see Bitcoin, which is the pet rock of crypto and one of my largest holdings, even though I make fun of it. It is that. I want to see it do incredibly well. I want to see it blaze to the upside. And that will give me increased optimism that, yes, this cycle is the same as previous ones in this particular regard. I'm just skeptical that it would be different. People are fearful right now. So negative takes on what's happening in the economy and, the S&P 500, just stocks generally speaking, negative, outlooks on crypto, all of that, dime a dozen. But history tells us that in moments like these, makes more sense to be against the crowd. That's the easy thing to believe if you're going with the crowd. Uptrend more likely. Tech Dev also believes this, very obviously. He shared this with his 516,900 followers. He simply wrote, "Fourth signal since Bitcoin existed." And you can see that it's Bitcoin up top and liquidity cycle on the bottom here. And this is obviously a moving average. That's why it's flattened out here compared to what Rob Paul was showing. So and by the way, that's not the reason I'm saying this, but it's also, this cannot be the M2. I think he's plugging something else in here. This is one of my pet peeves about even great chart analysts. Like, put some more information into some of your charts. Okay, liquidity cycle, I got it. And sometimes there are analysts that have proprietary metrics that they'll call so-and-so, which tracks so-and-so, and they don't want people to copy whatever that is, so they don't share the recipe, but they're like, here's what it is, like on a macro scale, big picture. And so it is liquidity cycle. Okay, I'm with you on that. I got that. Rob Paul agrees. All sorts of people agree. It's liquidity cycles. Got it. You can see the cyclical nature here. I just wish that he kind of plug in. Can you give a little more about what's in your liquidity cycle? But setting that aside, that is a pet peeve of mine, but I'll set that aside. Here you can see that it is very clear that as the liquidity cycle bottoms, what follows after moves to the upside for each of the last cycles going back to, 2011? Think about that. And you know what's also interesting? And chart analyst Bobby A, he pointed this out. And by the way, Bobby A, he is one of the analysts that accurately called XRP breaking to the upside. He did note that with each of these, like before the final move to the upside, you basically had a double bottom here. So like, it looks like liquidity cycle, it's bottomed out, but then back up and then back down. And that happened effectively. This one's a little bit, maybe you can barely see it because there's a green dot there, but it double bottoms, then it moved. And history tends to rhyme with itself. It's not going to look exactly the same, but is this not fascinating? I sure as hell think it is. I find this argument to be among the most compelling arguments for why we should continue to see a move to the upside, and rationale as to why we've seen what we've seen throughout the entire history of the asset class, which is only 16 years roughly at this point. But what do you think is next? We see the market peak without an alt season, without Bitcoin dominance tanking and all these other things? No, especially, and you're going to tell me, so liquidity on a global scale is increasing. It has increased. And that's not going to have an impact, a lagging impact on what people do with funds, people and businesses. You don't think that materially impacts what happens in the real world? Okay, well, of course you do, if you're smart, right? And so then, what do you think that means for XRP specifically, which has been artificially suppressed for years? I think number goes up, son. I really do. Take a look at this post from chart analyst Dark Defender. I wanted to highlight this because I think he pretty well called this one out. Credit where it's due. This is a post from about 12 hours ago, right? So it's 4:43 a.m. Central Time now. So he posted this 4:33 p.m. So just over 12 hours ago. There's a post that he highlighted. This is a screen grab from March 18th, and he wrote March 18th projection on the left, and then on the right side, it's a separate chart, different date. It says March 29th realization on the right. So here's what he was saying he thought was perhaps going to happen on the left, and it did happen. And so he was calling this drop. You can see actually where we were. It happened pretty much I got it about the same damn time, actually. So there was the move to the upside and then to the downside. Like I cited, we got up to whatever, I can't remember whatever the number was, $2.50, a little higher, whatever. But then it did go down to, like literally within the last 24 hours, like I said, $2.06. Well, he was warning about that. This is not something that people would want to see when XRP price is higher. I get that, but we're within a range, and there's all sorts of things that chart analysts are saying, hey, this is going to happen. There's a reason these people don't freak out, okay? If you arm yourself with knowledge, not that you have to be a chart guy yourself, and I'm not, I don't want to be, you don't have to be. If you just understand some basic concepts and possibility of outcomes, then maybe you're not going to freak out so much if even the more negative sounding outcomes actually occur in the short term. Because the big picture, it looks incredibly optimistic. Like the types of, if we are right, and I think there's very good reason to believe that we're right, broadly speaking, that, you know, XRP is long-term viable, and even this cycle number go up because, you know, face melting, price discovery, all that stuff. There are so many good reasons to believe all of this. I'm just saying, like, in the short term, if something goes, just even XRP, which it will, of course, that in and of itself is not an indication that we're wrong about that stuff. It's normal. There are so many years of history to show you that you should expect that. That it just won't ever go perfectly up in a straight line, and people get shaken out. No one would get shaken out if it didn't do that, okay? Of course people are going to get shaken out. Of course this is because people are going to take profit, and then price goes down if enough people want to take profit. And rinse and repeat. That's it. Right? And so anyway, you can see that indeed what he was talking about on March 19th went down, went back up. There you go. But still, new all-time highs coming here. And so he simply says, we are well ahead of anyone else on XRP analysis. Well, I mean, I'd say that's true of anybody that's paying attention that doesn't have some irrational negative tilt against XRP. Yeah, collectively much ahead. I would say that. Here's a post from chart analyst Credible Crypto. This is from March 19th. Now, mind you, this is the moment, and this is why he was sharing this. XRP went from somewhere around $2.20 to a little over $2.50. Might have been like $2.55, something like that, all right? And he shared this post indicating that there's a chance that we could go down to this lower range right here, so maybe somewhere in the realm of like $1.77, and, excuse me, and maybe then back up to the upper range here, $3.21. So he's indicating that with this zone. You just have to look at the screen if you want to see what I'm talking about. There's this pink zone that he labeled right here. Somewhere in that range. Could be a little bit lower than that, $1.60, whatever. But then ultimately back up. He was talking about that as the price of XRP had just rocketed, and it may not look like a rocket. If you zoom in on this where I'm moving my mouse, that was basically a rocket. Like in 0 seconds flat, effectively, went from $2.20 to roughly to over $2.50, whatever it was. Okay, and so as the excitement was happening, he's like, yeah, but we're going to go down. Now, that's not because he's some sort of Debbie Downer. In fact, he still firmly believes we're going to peak this cycle somewhere between $20 to $30, all right? That doesn't change. He's just saying what he's seen in the charts. So he's talking about a range here. And again, I'm going to beat this point home. You need to be aware of this. Ranges kill people. That's the reason I'm harping on this recently, in recent days, because we're in a severe one here. It's killing people here. I see the posts on social media. And he's saying it's from $3.21, the range is $3.21 down to $1.77. Yeah, that's beating some people up. And it can make you feel like, oh my God, it's topsy-turvy. The whole thing's going to fall over. Except for it's normal in crypto. It absolutely is. There's no shortage of data to prove that this is absolutely normal in crypto. Now, we're not going to stay in the range forever, so then you just have to ask, okay, what's next? Are we going to go up or are we going to break up or down? And hey, fair enough if you want to have that discussion, but I would just argue, even if in the short term we broke down, I still don't believe we're going to have this cycle end without a blow-off top. I still don't. I just don't. I don't think that's the most probable thing. I won't literally say it's impossible. Of course not. I don't think that's remotely probable, though. I think that humans are going to keep acting like humans, resulting in the very similar behavior to what we've seen in the past. And so the fact that he's talking about this, that shouldn't be horrifically terrifying to anyone, right? And so this was, again, March 19th, and XRP was going up. He's like, yeah, but you could just watch it. Not guaranteeing it. Could go back down, though. And so he says, this is still the game plan for XRP, by the way. If we don't get it, we don't get it. And we ride spot to double digits regardless. So, folks, that's $10 plus. He says, but I'm not interested in jumping into fresh longs mid-range. And I'll pause note, he's talking about for traders right there. Yeah, he's made it clear publicly that the vast majority of his crypto wealth, it's in spot, meaning he's just holding it for the long term. He hodls. He does do some trading, though. That's his shtick. He seems to be quite good at it, so I get why. But that's why he's saying within this particular range, we're in the mid range here. What's even the point? So we were around when he posted this, we were like $2.49. So he's like, yeah, from a trading perspective, not interested. That's what he was talking. He's not talking about hodling, just in case you're curious. So he says, hoping people choose to fade this push so we get what could be a fantastic opportunity. Okay, let me translate that. He's saying he hopes the price goes lower so that those who are interested have an opportunity to buy at a lower price. That's what he's saying. Fast forward, just this one also about 12 hours ago, 4:25 p.m. Central, so a little over 12 hours ago. This is the latest update from Credible Crypto. He wrote, push faded with a little checkbox emoji, checkmark emoji, whatever you call it. And he says, this is why I always place more emphasis / focus on the charts over news events. Still looking for range lows for a potential long opportunity. Note with Bitcoin / CRV, etc. at local demand. XRP could even bounce here if we get a market-wide bounce. But it wouldn't change anything unless we get a clear break of the range highs. Until then, plan stays the same. Okay. So I appreciate the acknowledgement. Nobody knows for sure what's going to happen in the short term, but just understand if it does go to the downside, there are people at Credible Crypto that think it makes sense, but that's not the end of the world because it's a range, and then you're still gonna have that blow off top. He believes Bitcoin's going to hit probably around $150,000. He's made that very publicly known. And again, like I said, XRP, he's expecting it to go 20 to 30 bucks. Not the end of the world if it goes lower. And then we also have this from Charting Guy. And this is something he posted on March 28th here. And I just wanted to highlight this to point out. And this is what I keep seeing, frankly, from all of the XRP chart analysts that I follow. I get it. The volatility, it's emotionally disturbing people. It's making people feel impatient, less interested. It's making them question their investment. I get it. That's what it does to humans. Be aware that's what it does to humans, and understand that the underlying fundamentals haven't changed. The underlying behaviors humans exhibit when investing in markets like this hasn't changed. You're a part of that. We're all cogs in this, in the wheel, including myself. I include myself in this. So I'm just saying, if you are aware of those types of human behaviors that people feel when this type of situation arises, then maybe you could just recognize that. Maybe you won't feel it then. And then if you don't feel it, maybe you're less likely to make a stupid financial decision. That's all I'm getting at. Just a simple concept there. And so here's what he wrote. XRP 2017 Fractal Key Pivot Dates Update. Fractal is more so about timing and direction, not exact price. Perfectly on track. P.S. This is my bearish case for XRP. And so don't hold them literally to the price part. That's fine. I absolutely respect that. He's just saying in terms of structure, and if you're just to slap down the fractal, and if it continues to play out in a particular way, well, if it played out like this, you're still looking, and this is his bear case, $8.70 for XRP. So I wouldn't hate that. I don't know about you. I wouldn't freaking hate that. But you know, almost all of the XRP chart analysts I follow, and by the way, I think pretty much all of them accurately called out beforehand that XRP would break to the upside. I think almost one, maybe not literal of them. I'd have to go through my mental Rolodex here of analysts that I follow, but off the top of my head, I know that there just aren't many at all that don't at least think it's possible to see double-digit price action. Like all of the ones that track XRP and have said, hey, here's what I think is reasonable. So if you want to call it a prediction, or even if they're just saying, not promising something, being like, I think that this would be reasonable. Almost all of them are saying, yeah, at least $10. Almost all of them. So I'm going to keep paying attention to the ones that saw that this was coming. I'm not going to pay attention to the fly-by-night analysts who just so happen to conveniently chart stuff that's in line with public sentiment, whatever that is at the time, given that public sentiment is very frequently very freaking incorrect. That's what I'm thinking. And I will mention just once briefly here, to wrap up the video, even if those negative Nancy's out there, the negative chart analysts, end up being correct, and this, we already saw the top of the market, it's time for a bear market. You know what happens is markets eventually rebound, even if it takes years. So what I'll do is literally nothing with my holdings. Like, I'm just going to hold, and then markets come back, because the stock market's not just suddenly going to go to zero. The crypto asset class isn't just going to suddenly go to zero. So when conditions improve and markets then would rebound, well, then at some unknown point in the future, I'd still feel enticed to sell. So even if it doesn't happen now and the bears are right now, I still am not fearful, because I do not believe for a freaking moment that the S&P 500 equals zero ever. Not in my lifetime. Or crypto going to zero. I mean, unless the planet ceases to exist, in which case we got way bigger freaking problems. So chill, bro. Just chill. Everything gonna be all right. I'm just saying. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because if anything I say are right, that would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.